What's going on, everyone? DSP here, and welcome to another edition of the Hateful Truth video game reviews. And today we are going to talk about a game that was highly anticipated, very hyped, and I think that a lot of people had high hopes. Some people ended up thinking that this was a very revolutionary game for many different reasons. It did a lot of new things in an interesting way. And some people really love the game. I think some people actually don't like the game. I'm going to give you my fair and honest review about my feelings about everything about this game, and then tell you what I thought about it. And I am talking about the game that there's a lot of confusion about who actually made this game. The name of the game is LA Noire. Now, there is a lot of confusion, first of all, because it says Rockstar Games presents LA Noire. It says Rockstar right on the cover. But the actual truth behind the matter is a lot of the game development was done by a group called Team Bondi, who's based out of Sydney, Australia. Now, Team Bondi did a lot of unique things with this game, including a revolutionary new way to motion capture a person's face. So using this brand new motion capture technology, they were able to isolate a lot of details on the face of a person, and that actually feeds into the gameplay of this game. So what is this game essentially? What it is it's a detective thriller based in LA. I believe it's during the time of the 1940s. And you are a up-and-coming detective named Cole Phelps. And the basic premise of the game is you are starting out on the bottom. You are trying to solve crimes by investigating for clues, interrogating people to get to the bottom of what's going on. Over time, you climb in the ranks and actually get to different desks at the precinct. So you're going to do different things like traffic cases, homicide cases, arson cases, all those kinds of different things going on, and basically it's a different kind of case, but there's still crimes and still the same basic gameplay. So the premise of the game is you're going to get assigned a case, you're going to drive to the case and have some back and forth witty banter with your partner, whoever your partner may be at the time, depending on what desk at the precinct you're working at. You get to the crime scene, you're going to walk around the crime scene and look for clues. Now, clues are indicated by the controller vibrating when you're near one, and also by an audio cue during the game, like a bling or something, some kind of an orchestral cue. And you know, oh, I have to press X and take a look at this this item. And sometimes you'll pick up an item and you'll say, oh, I wonder what this is, and you'll look around, and all of a sudden you'll turn it to the side, oh, and there's something inscribed on the side, and that's your clue for the case. So once you sufficiently go through a crime scene and find as many clues as you can, then it's going to be your job to basically find out who should be the suspect for this case. And sometimes it'll be really easy. You'll already have people apprehended who are at the station. Sometimes you have to do more investigation and talk to people and interrogate people, and then you'll actually find out who is the suspect. Now, when you interrogate people, you need to be able to ask the right questions in order to flesh out the right answers. And what you need to do when you ask people questions in this game is really take a real close look at their face, because like I said, this revolutionary new technology of facial capture allows the actors in this game to actually give very, very subtle tells of what they're saying. So for example, if you ask, where were you at 5 o'clock on Friday? And the guy says, well, okay, I was at the bar. Then if they, hesitated, if they look to the side, if they stroke their face, if they have a tell that says that they're nervous, it means that they're probably lying. And then it's your job to determine whether they're lying, they're telling the truth, or if you want to accuse them actually of a lie, you can actually take a specific clue that maybe you found at the crime scene to prove that they're lying. So for example, if he says, I was at Joe's at 5 o'clock, well, you can accuse him of lying and look at your evidence and say, you have witness testimony that he was at the supermarket at 5 o'clock. And you say that to him, and then all of a sudden you catch him in his lie. You're like, oh man. So, depending on what you choose, you can either, again, accuse them of a lie, you can doubt what they're saying if you don't have any evidence, but you still saw a tell and maybe a reason that you suspect that they're lying, or you can just say, okay, that's probably the truth. If you guess right, you actually get points, and as the points accumulate, you actually gain levels in the game and begin to rank up. Now, ranking up will give you different abilities. Sometimes when you rank up, they'll give you an additional intuition point. Now, what intuition points allow you to do is during an interrogation, let's say, for example, if you're not sure if they're telling the truth or they're lying, you can use an intuition point to do a couple things. You can either eliminate one of the three answers. So, okay, eliminate one, and all of a sudden the lie will go away. So now you know, okay, there was no evidence. So either I can doubt them or I can say that, okay, they said the truth. Or there's actually another intuition option if you're connected to Xbox Live or the PlayStation Network, where you can actually poll the people who've played the game before, and it'll tell you overall what the most popular answer was by anyone who's been asking this question before in the game. And most of the time, if you go with what they said the most popular answer was, you're going to get it right. So intuition points are really important, especially when you're in tricky areas of the game, and you really need to want to get the right answer, and you really don't have enough evidence, or you're not sure of yourself. Now, to be completely honest, the interrogation system in the game really isn't that important. As much as they try to make it seem like it's an integral part of the game, and there's all this revolutionary technology that they use to do facial scans and everything for tells, regardless of whether or not you actually do well in interrogation or not, regardless of if you even do well at a case or not, you can completely blow every question, miss half the evidence, somehow you're still going to stumble to the end of the case, and the game's going to continue on. You can't fail the game, you know what I mean? So really, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're good or bad at the game. Now obviously the goal is to do well, but the game's going to continue on whether or not you do well or not. So there's really no advantage besides maybe fleshing out a little bit more of the story, or a little bit more of what's going on, to really getting really good interrogations done. And I think that's one of the major flaws of the game. If there's no risk-reward, what's the risk if you screw up? Sure, there might be a reward, but what's the risk? If there's no risk, then who cares? Who cares if you even do well on any interrogation? And sure, you might try, but it sucks when the real goal is to just blunder your way through the game until you finally get to the end and not have to worry about ever losing in the game, per se. So I do think that's one of the major flaws of the game. Outside of the interrogation and the investigation, looking for clues, there is some more gameplay. There's the driving, obviously. And one thing I do want to tell everyone, this game is not Grand Theft Auto. A lot of people thought this was going to be an open-world 1940s game, and that's why it was going to be so good. It's really not like that. Yes, it is an open-world game, but there's almost nothing whatsoever to do outside of just doing your main mission line in this game. If you're not doing a main story mission, the only things that there's randomly phoned-in calls all around LA, and you can go to those calls and do mini side missions, okay? And most side missions are very, very short, and they consist of one of three things. You're either going to shoot a bunch of criminals who are robbing a bank, you're going to chase down a criminal who's trying to run away from you, or you're going to have a high-speed chase, car chase, trying to stop a criminal who's running away from you in a car. And for the most part, that's it. There's no other side missions in the game. There's no real variety in the missions. You're going to be doing one of those three mission types. The only reward for doing those missions is more experience points, which are going to allow you to level up and get more intuition points, and so on and so forth. There are a couple other things to do in the game. There's some, they call them hidden cars, and what they are unique cars that you can find in the game, and once you do, you unlock them. And once you find all the cars, you get a trophy or an achievement for it. Not that that's any big deal. Also, as you level up, you unlock different outfits for yourself. So that is kind of a neat thing. You know, you do well in an interrogation or two, and all of a sudden you have a nice snazzy new suit that you can wear around for the rest of the game. That could be seen as a plus, but again, it's not anything necessary to actually beating the game. The combat in the game, meaning the shooting itself, is extremely reminiscent to Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption. It's that same auto aim, just hit the trigger, oh, you're going to aim for the guy, pop him once, you know, he's down, now go next to the next guy, pop, 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 and it's all auto adjusted. There's really no manual aiming needed here, and therefore it reminded me extremely of Grand Theft Auto 4, that aspect of the gameplay. Story-wise, the game is pretty interesting, okay? There is actually an underlying story that's running through the whole game, which at first doesn't seem to make any sense. It doesn't seem to have any relevance. It's about Cole Phelps when he used to be in the armed forces, and you really struggle at the beginning of the game to wonder why are they showing you this, who are half these characters. But then as the game continues, you actually meet many of these characters and you understand how they're all linked together, and actually lead into one large, big picture story that you weren't aware was there when you first started playing the game. Another neat thing is that a lot of the cases at first seem unrelated, but then later on they end up actually being very, very related, and I don't want to spoil anything, but some of the twists when it comes to these cases can be really cool. And I thought that one particular string of cases, the homicide string of cases, are the best in the game, A+, like very interesting cases, and they are probably the best part of the game is when you're during that part of the game. Unfortunately, that's actually in the first half of the game. My gripes with the game. The gameplay is very repetitive. Let's put it that way. You know, when I played Red Dead Redemption last year, sure, a lot of the stuff is repetitive, but I never felt bored. You know, I never felt like, oh man, this is just dragging on too much. You know, just end it here, or why do I have to do the same thing over and over? I never felt that way when I was playing Red Dead Redemption. I did feel that way a lot when I played LA Noire. Once you do your 6th or 7th case, you're like, man, I just gotta go to another crime scene, look for clues, interrogate someone, maybe chase someone. Then it's gonna be another case, I have to investigate for clues, I have to interrogate someone, maybe chase someone, and then there'll be another case, I have to investigate for clues, and it's that same formula over and over and over and over with pretty much no breaks whatsoever. And because of that, a lot of people, including myself, felt that this game was very repetitive. If you like that gameplay, then you probably think this game is A+, AAA amazing. If you actually get bored of that gameplay, as I started to while I was playing this game, then it can actually not seem as, you know, perfect as other people are saying this game is. One thing that I have to say is that the motion capture technology is interesting. I think that it's cool that they did it. I don't honestly think it added anything to this game. A lot of the times, you cannot tell if the person is giving a tell or not. It's just very hard to figure it out. And there's some people who, like, they'll give you your answer, yes, I was there. And you see how late that reaction was that I just did? But that's exactly what they'll do in the game. So they'll say, yeah, I was there. And you'll say, oh, that was true. And then all of a sudden, then they give their tell after you've already said it was true. And you're wrong. And you're like, what the fuck, man? You know, like, that's really annoying. How long do you expect me to sit here and fucking wait to see if this guy's going to give his tell or not? And then other times, it's just really confusing. There's some people in the game who look like they're giving tells and they're not. And it's just really a mess at some points during these interrogations. So, it's fun to a point. But then it kind of gets ridiculous when they expect you to know all these, you know, like, I'm not a fucking mind reader. There's no way I would have known some of this stuff. And then later on in the game, you actually start finding so many clues that if you go to call someone out on a lie, sometimes it's really confusing what clue you should even use to call them out. And so you might pull out the wrong clue and the game says, nope, you fucked up. And next thing you know, you're like, oh, now I missed out on getting that experience point because, you know, the game was being stupid about it. Now in the game's defense, it's long. The game is anywhere from 17 to 20 hours long, depending on if you actually focus on those side mini-missions that I had mentioned. And the overall arcing story is a very interesting story, which is no surprise. Team Bondi and Rockstar both worked on this game. Team Bondi is this, again, this game studio that's out of Sydney, Australia. Just so everyone knows, Rockstar did have influence on this game. Did Rockstar actually develop a lot of this game? No. But they did have creative control over it. So for someone to say, oh, well, this wasn't really a Rockstar game, it's a Team Bondi game, that's not really true. It really was, they did work together to make this game. So I hate that misinformation that people spread and say that it was all Team Bondi or, oh, that's a Rockstar game. Well, not really. It's actually more of a collaborative effort between the two studios. And so overall, the game has an arcing story that's very similar to the traditional Rockstar story. It doesn't necessarily have the ending you're expecting. You could get to know and like some of the characters, even though maybe they're not the most clean and, you know what I mean, squeaky clean people. And it does have this kind of noir atmosphere. If anything, the best thing about this game is the story, hands down. It's almost like you want to just fudge yourself through the investigations and through the interrogations so you can finally get to the overlapping story, the overarching story, and get to the bottom of what's really been going on throughout the course of the whole game. So overall, what do I have to say about LA Noire? I think that it's an interesting experiment. I think that the motion capture technology is impressive, but doesn't necessarily add too much to the game or the gameplay of the game. And I really do think that a lot of people were expecting more. They were expecting this to be the next Red Dead Redemption or the next Grand Theft Auto, and it really doesn't live up to those expectations. Now, maybe it's unfair to have those expectations to begin with. I mean, no one really said that this was going to be that kind of a game, and it really doesn't turn out to be that kind of a game. But for me, the reason I didn't necessarily fall in love with this game was the repetitive nature of the cases. Every case is pretty much the same. Again, you go, You look for clues, you find the clues, you get suspects, you interrogate the suspects, you accuse or try to figure out who did the crime, and then the case ends and you go to the next one. And that's pretty much it, except of course there's story thrown in between there that's really interesting. So I actually had 2 DLCs that off the way the DLCs work in this game, to explain it, if you have the DLCs, you can enter them right away, and during the course of the campaign playthrough, you can actually have those DLCs inserted as extra cases so you can get extra experience points. For me, I couldn't do it, and the reason was during the time period that this game was new, the PlayStation Network was down, and I bought the PS3 version, and therefore, by the time that the PlayStation Network was back up, I'd already been very close to the end of the game, if not beaten the game, and there was really no reason for me to do the DLCs. After I beat the game, I really had no desire to go play the DLCs, because I knew they're going to be the same damn thing. You're going to go to a crime scene, look for clues, yada yada yada. It's the same gameplay over and over and over. And so, for me, that is a major flaw of this game. I think that other games from Rockstar have done way better. And I think that Rockstar really, they should have, if this game had free roam and a lot of side missions like a Grand Theft Auto, like let's say not only were there just these random missions that you did through the city, but what if there was a gang storyline where you're trying to break up a gang and you constantly run into them and you meet the characters and things like Grand Theft Auto does, those kinds of side missions. I think this game would have been way better, but just being limited to doing very small mini missions that really don't reward you or give you anything for it besides a couple experience points, and the fact that really you're just stuck in this formula of the same gameplay over and over, it's a letdown. And for me, I think this game was a letdown. I was expecting more from it than I got out of it, and I really think that they could have done a better job if a little bit more time was put into the game to put some more free roam aspects, to put more side missions and things into the game and give it a little bit more variety. So, for me, I do not by any means think this game is a bad game. I think it's a classic Rockstar game. In that vein, you know when you get one of these Rockstar sandbox-style games that you're going to have a nice long story. You're going to get your money's worth hour-wise of gameplay. And yeah, 20 hours, it's pretty good for a $60 game. And I think that there is quality there. I just think that they really did miss the mark with the actual investigation gameplay, and they could have done a little bit better job, especially with some of the interrogations and things that are very confusing. There's really no way to get it perfect every time. There's even some parts, like I said, where it's just super confusing because you have too much information. So, for me, overall, what do I think about LA Noire? I think it's a good game. It's not a Game of the Year contender for me, unfortunately. I think they could have done a better job. There's too much repetitive gameplay in the game. I give this game a 7.5. That's my rating for LA Noire. It could have been a lot better. I really wished if it had more open world, more side quests, it wasn't as repetitive, I probably would have given it an 8.5 or a 9 because the story excels, but it's just really, as you get further into the game, you just start to feel boredom at the same stuff over and over and over, and that's just it. That's, unfortunately, that's how I feel about the game, so. Alright, so that's it for the Hateful Truth for LA Noire. I hope that it gave you a lot of information, and now you can make a choice on whether or not you'd like to get this game, if you haven't already. And I will see you guys next time for another episode of the Hateful Truth.